Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about friendship breakups. I'm sure if you're watching this video, chances are you already experienced one or you're on the verge of experiencing one. Like, there's someone that's about to fall off your vibration. And I want to talk about this because when this first happened to me, it was really, really difficult for me to go through friendship breakups. It started in the very beginning of my awakening, which was probably like 5.5 years ago or something. And at that time, it was when I had my hip surgeries, and I had two hip surgeries that were like 6 months apart from each other. And it was when I discovered that a lot of my friends that I grew up with from like childhood like did not show up for me. And then these people that I thought were good friends, like when I had been in Colorado, they also like did not show up for me. Not in the sense of like taking care of me where I was with my hip surgeries physically, but like they just were like not there in text messages or phone calls. And it was really difficult for me because my family had disowned me at the time. And so it was a really, really, really rough time in my life. That was also during my Saturn returns, which those of you who are not versed in Saturn, I would totally look that up because Saturn is like one of the game changer planets, in my opinion. It definitely like caught me off guard. But anyways, that's like another story. But anyways, it was really hard because like I ended up having to end a friendship with a really good friend from middle school and then a friend from like my early years of childhood. And they both like had all like the reasons in the world as to why they were in the right and I was in the wrong. And they like the one was like, "Oh, you don't know what it's like to work on a thesis," and then the other one, he was like going through drug use and trying to hide it from me. And like he just kept like blaming me for why he wasn't showing up. And it was like really difficult to me because like they say when you grow up with friends from childhood, it's like it's hard to lose these friendships because like these are the people that your roots grow with. So in a sense, you're kind of root bound to some of them. And then you gotta honor when this happens, you gotta honor like the grief of all of it. And like that grief is layered. And I don't feel like a lot of people always talk about honoring the grief of like these friendship breakups. Like it's just like, oh, life's better off without them. But at some point, life was not better off without them. At some point, these were your friends that really carried you through some of like the thickest of thicks, right? So it's like you, like when this does happen, and it will happen as you awaken, it will happen as you expand and as your vibration shifts into like healthier frequencies. Those that are not aligned with those frequencies and that expansion will just kind of fall off because they can't keep up with you because that's just not where their energy is. And sometimes they'll come back to you years later because they've played catch up and like they've done their own work and now they're in the same vibration and expansion state as you. And it's so beautiful when that happens, right? But in the meanwhile, like when the breakup happens, it's really important to honor the death of that friendship. Like maybe even do a ritual, like laying to rest that friendship and honor the grief of who you were when you met them, honor the grief of what it feels like in the now to let them go, honor the grief of any family members of theirs that you're letting go of, honor the grief that you guys both shared as children growing up, because chances are we all bonded over similar attachment styles and stuff, right? Honor that and journal about it and cry about it and dance it out of your body. Take baths, take long naps, like treat that friendship as if a person had just died. And if you do that, you'll feel so much better. You won't have the resentment, like the energies and emotions will healthily have expressed from your body, right? And nobody taught me that when I first went through this. I learned it, let's see, I learned it the second time one of the friends came back into my life. I realized we still weren't quite aligned, and when they kind of were back in my life, I we also had a mutual friend that died in high school from high school, and so I was grieving the actual death of a friend, and then I just realized things weren't aligned with this friend still, and I was talking to my therapist about it, and she finally gave me the understanding of why it was so painful, and it was because yeah, like we grew up together. I was like 11, I think, when I met him. He was 11, and I mean, we quit being friends when we were like 30. that's a chunk of time, right? So of course you're gonna want to honor it, and like of course you share like all these deep parts with yourself with these people, especially the longer term friendships. And it took great vulnerability to get there. And in honoring the grief and the end of the friendship, it keeps your heart open to vulnerability. If you don't honor the grief and the feelings that come up for you, then it shuts your heart off or it clouds it with like other emotions and frequencies of resentment and hatred and anger. Unspoken truths might kind of cloud down onto it. And it's okay to have all of these emotions. There's no good emotion or bad emotion. We have all emotions for a reason. And it's just important to allow the emotions to go through a healthy flow so they don't get lodged in our body, because we also have this body for a reason. And we don't want this body to get bogged down by the densities of trapped emotions that get stuck in the body, which science is doing a lot of research on fascial tissue and somatics and psychosomatics, which is like the release of emotions from the fascial tissue of the body. There's a lot to this. And so, yeah, if you are going through a friendship breakup, honor the grief. Don't bypass it. Don't sweep it under a rug. Don't avoid it. Don't blame them. Don't shame them. Maybe you're not quite at that point in your journey, but maybe remember this video and come back and remember, like, hey, it took two of us to get here. And I really do love this person. I'm only blaming them and shaming them because I'm hurt. It's easier to like point at the other person when you're hurting or deflect to the other person instead of just feeling your feelings, right? And then, I mean, as you kind of get used to the friendship breakups, because things are cyclical, it's going to come around again, right? Right now, I'm filming this video and it's Mercury retrograde, and yeah, retrograde is a great time. Mercury retrograde, when like Pluto retrograde, which I think is starting, is a good time to reflect and see your growth. So sometimes the planets, as they're in retrograde, might throw you an old friend and see if they'll re-enter your life and if you both have grown or not. And maybe you both have, and the friendship will continue even out of the retrograde. Or maybe like a retrograde will happen where you've had this friend that's been bugging you for months and months, and you just realize like they're not in alignment with you, and maybe like there was a retrograde where you just chose to ignore that, like you guys were aligned. So then things are going to pop off even more with communication in the next retrograde that comes around, seeing if you're going to make the choice to go your separate ways or not. And then eventually it's just going to be so uncomfortable that you're going to have to, or something is going to come like as a curveball and kind of throw a wrench in all of it, making everything kind of pop off. And so um if that happens in the next cycle, at least you'll already gone through like the initial cycle of friendship breakup and won't be so startled. And if you haven't had any friendship breakups, this is all great stuff to just kind of take what resonates and let it kind of be remembered, because that way, if it does happen for you, or if someone you know is going through it, you have this knowledge to kind of pull from your self healing toolkit and your soul's journey toolkit. And then recently I had several friendship breakups. And it's so interesting. They're all so different. Like now, this is like years later. This is like goodness, like 4 years after, 5 years after the main breakups that I had. So I've changed a lot. I have a lot of healthy regulation tools. I receive energy work constantly. I keep up with it, because how am I going to be a clear channel to help you guys if I'm not doing my work, right? Like I got to show up for myself, which goes with my previous video about showing up. Like showing up is doing the work, right? And so yeah, like now I'm at this place where I just had in the last month two friendships end, and it was really extremely painful for the one. That one day I will talk about the fullness of it, but there's just some stuff I know I'm not supposed to say at this time. However, there's a really deep past life connection in that one, and I never had gotten to healthily process the grief that occurred in the life we had 9,000 years ago. And I blamed myself for a lot of stuff that happened in that life. I shamed myself for a lot of it. Um, and and they also blamed and shamed themselves for a lot of stuff. Long story short, in that life, like we both got brutally killed in ways that were just like outside of our control. And it was highly traumatic. I watched this friend get like murdered in front of me, and then I ended up getting dismembered, and it was all like as we were working on some really deep stuff that I'm not able to talk about at this time. And so they carried all this like fear and failure from that life. I carried all this guilt and shame from that life, right? And then as we met in this life, we had so many activations. And I'm so grateful for this friend because we had so many activations. Like, thanks to me meeting them, it really pushed me to get on top of my like timeline and like move to Florida. Like, I've been wanting to for a long time. I've been wanting to live by the ocean for like years. And I was getting to the point of just allowing myself to settle in New Mexico because it was easier and because my husband hasn't like really moved and people pleasing and not showing up for myself, right? And so meeting this friend helped me start to show up for myself. It helped me build confidence in myself. There was so much beauty from this. It helped me look more at my relationship with money and tune in more into the energetics of abundance that are all around me. And it gave me like a beautiful idea that I want to incorporate into my business around photography. And then I gave them love, and that was like their biggest thing was like they've never seen love their whole life, and like they really benefited from the love that I showed them and patience that I showed them, and like the ability for us to keep up like at rapid light speeds with like our conversations, right? And so then the breakup time came because they were really caught up in paying atonement for that past life, whether they acknowledge it or not. It's in their energy field. I know this. And so they were busy paying atonement for that life, and they got sucked up into religious programming, which religious programming is a great reaffirmation of you are not worthy, you are guilty, pay atonement, right? Especially Christianity, which they got into. Sorry, my nose keeps itching as I talk about it. And so I just couldn't do it because they kept sending me all these like religious videos and texts, and I had placed my boundaries there. I was like, like I really would prefer if we don't talk about things like this, or if we do, like we like have times that we talk about it and that we respect each other's beliefs. Like I don't push my beliefs on you. Why are you pushing yours on me? Like and they didn't quite understand. And then like they just got to this point where I could just feel all this fear, and I just knew it was time to let go. And so we had a really beautiful friendship breakup. We both showed up to lunch and brought gifts for one another. They brought me like belated birthday gifts, and I just brought them a farewell gift to send them on their way. I brought them this beautiful custom made flower essence and then some flower art for them. Uh, and it was beautiful. We talked, we enjoyed lunch, we spent like 4 or 5 hours grounding outside by the river. They gave me some really beautiful parting insight around some stuff, and I gave them some really like daddy Saturn, daddy Chiron insight around some stuff. And then we hugged and said goodbye. And then I cried a lot, and I honored it, and I'm sure they honored it as well. And then had another breakup the same week. And it was with this friend that I used to be roommates with when I lived in Missouri. And at the time that I lived with her, we were aligned because I was like tapping back into Catholicism, and she was like super Christian. And although she didn't accept Catholicism, she accepted me because I accepted Jesus, right? Which I'm like, nothing against like all the avatars and ascended masters. It's just religion as I talk about this. And so, anyways, I outgrew her once I got into my spiritual awakening. However, with the spiritual awakening, like she still like would like spend time with me when I would go into town to visit. However, as the years have passed, like I don't know her whole journey because we've been so out of touch. Um, I guess she has got it in her head that I am going to hell because I do Reiki, and then she like sent me some video about a Reiki master that used to do necromancy that now is Catholic or something, and she just kept trying to convert me and save me. And um it all started with like a text where she was trying to convert me before she even sent me that video. And I explained to her where I was coming from, and I told her, I was like, like we're just not in resonance anymore. And I was like, let us leave this friendship with gratitude. I think it's really important to practice gratitude if you're going to do a friendship breakup. Like, state your boundaries. If things don't quite go well, then, and you realize the friendship has to end, like, end with gratitude. Like, show up with what you were grateful for in that friendship. It definitely softens the cut, right? And so I was like, let us just leave it with gratitude. And I listed all the things I was grateful for that she had done for me in my life. Like, I mean, she did a lot for me. She paid for my health insurance for a few months when I was going through hip surgery. She offered me super affordable living in Missouri when I was like going through like a shitty relationship. She was so much fun to like do happy hour with and karaoke with, and like, yeah, there's a lot of beautiful stuff. Um, and so I tried to end with that, but she didn't listen. And then she sent me like this conversion video, and she's like, I'll pay you $100 if you watch this video. And I was like, all right. Like, because at this time I've been working on healing my relationship with money, which I learned from, I think it was Louise Hay, that if you say no to a gift, then you're saying no to the universe receiving. And I was like, this is, and one of my affirmations that I do is I'm open to receiving income from expected and unexpected sources of income. So I realized in this friendship breakup that the universe was giving me an opportunity to heal my relationship with money, as it was giving me an opportunity to close out a relationship with someone that I was no longer in resonance with. And so I accepted the money. I felt guilty for like a split second, and I was like, no, this is like an offering. This is probably like karmic of some sort too. Like maybe she's just paying out the last of her debts from other incarnations that were owed in this incarnation through like paying you, you know. So she paid me for my time to watch the video, and I was like, this is cool. Then she paid me two more times to watch two more videos. And at this point, like, because she didn't, like, I told her, I was like, we're not friends anymore, like, you know. And so the second video she sent me, she's like, did you even watch it? And I was like, well, how sad is that that you have to ask me that when you've known me for so many years? Like, I'm 33 right now, and I met her when I was, I think, 20. And then she like apologized for offending me, but then I was like, look, like we're not friends anymore, and if you want me to engage with you on this subject matter, you're going to have to communicate your needs to me about what you expect of me, as you're paying me for my time to watch the video. You're not paying for me to engage with you about the video. So like I had to state those boundaries, right? And then she like was like, okay. She's like, well, I would appreciate any insight. And then I did give a little bit of insight. And then she sent me another video, and I was just like, okay, at this point, I can't keep taking money from her, because like I know her fear is ruling her, and she's so worried I'm going to go to hell. And that's just not what I believe in. And so I had to block her so that way she would stop throwing this fear-based money at me, because yes, I'm open to receiving income from unexpected sources of income, but also you want to be receiving money that comes from a place of like healthy vibration, which if she's throwing it at me fearfully, after a while the integrity of it, the receiving kind of goes down, is how I interpret it. So then yeah, that friendship breakup was kind of sloppy. I did it with boundaries, I did it with gratitude. I think I had already pre-grieved her in the years to come, because we'd already started separating. So I had already pre-grieved. I honored it. I allowed myself to receive, and then like I just had to block because she was not getting it. Whereas the other one, like they got it, and they still send me stuff, because I told them, the other one, I told them they could send me stuff as they're processing, but I was like, just be aware that as you send me stuff, like I'm not going to reply. I'm not ghosting you. We're having this breakup for a reason, but like I'm just not going to reply, and I don't want you to be caught off guard with that. And so yeah, that was how I handled these recent friendship breakups, which is like so much better than how I handled it 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I was screaming, crying, trying to make them hurt as bad as me. And yeah, I've definitely evolved, which is really cool. And as you go through your journey, I'm sure you're super happy to see yourself evolve as well. And yeah, just know that as these people like fall out of your life, maybe they're falling out and they'll come back. I had a friend that I ended the friendship several years ago. And then just this last year we reconnected with each other, and like she really is showing up and doing the work. I really showed up and did the work. Like we were friends for like, I think now we've been friends for 26 years or 27 years. Um so whenever we had our breakup, I think we've been friends for like 21 years. It was really hard. So it's been really nice. And I mean, we've had to kind of rebuild trust with each other and kind of learn each other, but like it's pretty mutual, because we're both at the same level of like therapy and doing the work and boundaries and healthy communication and stuff, right? So I mean, sometimes like the breakup might happen and then they might come back, and that's beautiful when that happens as well. And also realize if it's like a really old friendship that is coming to an end, you might want to do some inner child work and like cuddle your inner child, make your inner child feel safe, dance with your inner child, play with your inner child. Maybe your inner child wants some ice cream because they're sad because, you know, kids get um fed sweets to get them to calm down, right? Like obviously don't go eat ice cream for 7 days straight, but like maybe a tub of ice cream like throughout the week, like splitting it up throughout the week might be what your child kind of needs to feel safe as they go through the breakup, right? Um, and so yeah, I think that's everything I got on friendship breakups. Um, trying to think. Hmm. And then also with friendship breakups, like sometimes like people might be falling out of your life because the universe, God, goddess, like they want you by yourself so you can come back home to you. Maybe you've spent a lot of your life self abandoning. I know I did. And you really lost touch of who you were because you were so busy people pleasing, which that was me like years ago, that you didn't even know who you were anymore. And so universe is like, all right, time to let the friends fall off like flies so this person can rediscover themselves and reconnect themselves because like they're on the downward track right now and like things are going to get worse than they already are if like we don't have this person be by themselves, right? And so maybe you're not going to have friends for a couple years after people like fall off, and that's okay. Or maybe you're going to have new friends but they're kind of flaky. That happened to me. um that's cool too. The flaky friends just kind of show you like what kind of friendships do you want in your life after you've shed these friendships. Like obviously you shed these friendships for a reason, right? Like you don't want like the blaming, the shaming, the guilt, the people that are like negative Nancy's not cheering you on, that don't let you cheer them on. So then as you start to kind of have these flaky ones, I mean kind of see some of those ones as like showing you like, oh, okay, your new friends to be are in the making. Meanwhile, here's like the flakes that kind of shed like snakeskin as you get more concise about what kind of friendship you want, right? Um, so yeah, there could also be a little bit of that showing up, and then maybe even write a list as you're going through this of like what qualities you would like in a friend, in a future friend, and what qualities you like don't like, and put a big X through the don't like, so that way like you're not dragging that into your life, and then maybe what kind of friend you want to be to this person, right? That way it's like really specific, and then just let go of the paper, don't think about it, and then those trust that the universe will bring those kind of people into your life at the time that is best for you according to like your soul's will and divine will. I hope this video helped you, and I look forward to hearing what stories you share in the comments about friendship breakups, and if, what tools in this video helped you. Like, was boundary setting helpful? Was like some of the things I shared about communicating, was that helpful? Was the gratitude part helpful? Please share. I read the comments, and then subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date. I don't know why I keep saying that, up to date for further reflective posts that I share or conversations that I have with you, as well as guided meditations or EFT tapping videos. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great day. And you are so loved, even if you're in the midst of like a friendship breakup right now. Trust the process.